This game's hilarious though. This game is it's a fun speed game. It's a really broken speed game though. Alright, there we go. So like, that was the first level. We just skipped through the entire first level, which is pretty hefty. I mean, there's a good amount of stuff that you do in that level. And we just skipped right through it. So that this is the second level. We just skipped through all of that pretty much. We just need to flip right to the end here. There we go. So basically, yeah, this game's camera is super broken, and you can clip through a lot of things by simply either fixing your camera or by just literally walking up against a wall, and sometimes your camera will just clip through it. Depending on the wall too, like if you're going around a corner, most of the time your camera is just gonna be like, yep, I'm just gonna take off here. Go wherever I want. Ah, dude, he blocked that. What a dick. That is really unfortunate, because that just means that was literally nothing. One thing that sucks is the enemies in this game block just completely randomly, so if you're unlucky, you just take longer on fighting because the enemies decide to be dicks. But anyway. Like that time, he didn't block it, so that was fine. Oh, there it is. But, so you might be wondering, right, like, why am I not just teleporting to the end of this level? And the answer to that is, this is the end of this huge section, which is the Rome section. And, I guess it's not really a huge section, but, essentially, we have to spawn the boss at the end of this section so we can actually finish the level. And if we teleport to the end of the level before the boss is spawned, then it just we just can't finish the level. So once we defeat those enemies, the boss will finally spawn here. But we don't want to fight the boss, or yet anyway. We want to avoid going through that doorway because there's a cutscene that plays if we go through that. But what's funny is we can just clip through this wall here, and what happens if we do that is we avoid watching that cutscene for one, which saves a lot of time. But then on top of that, never activating that cutscene avoids activating his combat as well. So this boss is just stun locked entirely until we defeat him, and then the level ends. Alright, anyway, so that's the end of the Rome section. That section's fairly easy since it has a lot of skips, and the boss has a really easy way to cheese through the boss. The clip we did into the room is a little tough sometimes. It's pretty, I'd say it's pretty lenient because there's multiple angles you can use to clip through it, but it can be a little tricky sometimes if you don't do it quite right. So. It's a pretty funny way to save a lot of time though. Boss fight in Rome is actually quite difficult, but anyway. So once this cutscene ends, what's funny about some cutscenes is you can teleport at the end of them by just just by pressing the teleport button. Some of the cutscenes they'll like let you move before you actually before the camera actually like pans back to Griffin, so you can use that to your advantage a lot of times like we did there. So in this level, we actually need to fight every single enemy because the end of the level just doesn't spawn until we do, so it's kind of neat. But yeah, this level does require us to fight every single enemy in the level, and this is the only level that does require us to do that. But anyway. So one thing you might notice is I am using some of these like special attacks, and the thing that like governs those is the blue bar below my health bar, which is those are the top left bars, and the top bar is the health bar, the bottom one is the special move bar. And what happens with the special moves is if the bar is filled up all the way, you can do some really neat moves like that move there, and those can save a lot of time depending on the one you use. And then if they're like not quite full, you can use like one little bar. Like if you have just one bar of special move, then you can use that, but it just doesn't do quite as good of an attack, and it isn't like an area attack either. Anyway, we can use those to like take out enemies faster, essentially. So we just want to stand here, and then, man, that didn't work. I mean, it worked, but I just didn't stay. It's annoying. I hate how this works. There we go. Anyway, so in this level here, we want to clip out of bounds and then teleport to that out of bounds object. And if you guys didn't hear me explaining last run, the out of bounds objects are basically like, they're actually related to the special moves that you do, and you can do a special move that basically plays a cutscene where Griffin like teleports to an area outside of the level, and he'll beat up some of these enemies, but it isn't supposed to look like the outside of the level. It's supposed to look like he's just teleported somewhere else in the world or whatever, and then they just have these backdrops, but they're just placed right outside of the level, so you can just teleport to them really easily. And I'm assuming just so you don't have to sit through like a loading zone or anything, but yeah, so once you beat up all these enemies, you just need to go into the elevator, and then once those enemies are dead, the loading zone finally spawns. So yeah. Alright, so we're back to this level here. This is the last level of the Nepal section, and we want to clip through this door here and try to do the Nepal skip. Nice, we did it. There we go. So that skip is a really kind of precise skip. You have to make sure to walk into that room and just barely walk into it so that the room itself loads, but the walls behind it don't load their collision for whatever reason, and you're able to just teleport to like way farther in the level if you want. You can even teleport into this section, but the thing about it is you want to make sure to teleport. This is the out of bounds cutscene, by the way, that I was talking about, one of those. Anyway, so you want to make sure to teleport to that chain room, because going into that room through any of the entrances, either the back entrance, which is through this area, or through the intended entrance, there are flags at both of those entrances that spawn enemies, and if there's no enemies, then they don't get in your way, which makes going through the room faster and also safer since you don't take a bunch of damage. But this is the boss fight of the Nepal section. This is Roland. He's basically the main enemy of the actual movie, but the movie isn't based on Griffin, so he isn't our main enemy of the game, but he does make a couple of appearances, and this is one of them, and this is the boss fight with him. And this boss fight is actually kind of one of the more dangerous boss fights. There's a huge electric fence surrounding the field that damages you quite a bit if you get knocked into it at all, or if you just happen to walk into it for some reason, or if you try to teleport beyond it. And yeah, you can die. Like, if you try to teleport beyond it, you'll die like immediately, and so if you do that by accident, that really sucks. But essentially like, as long as you don't take way too much damage and you take down Roland quick enough with quick enough combat, then that section's not too bad. But Roland doesn't have any ways to like cheese him really, like the first boss fight, for example, where we stun lock him. There's no stun locks for Roland as far as I know. Anyway, so this section here, this level starts with a cutscene, but we can move at the beginning of the cutscene to turn a little bit so we are facing the way that we want to go, which is nice. But anyway, we want to go... Dude, that freaking satellite got in my way and wasn't letting me teleport. So basically, we just want to teleport to the end of that level there and then go through the door that prevents us from getting through it, but we can just teleport through it, so it doesn't matter. Alright, so now we clip through that staircase so we can get to the end of this level here. Want to teleport over there. Oh crap, I'm kind of stuck there. You can get stuck in the desk there if you're not careful. But we want to beat up this white coat guy so that this the enemies in this elevator will spawn here in a second. We clip into here so that we can just start beating them up earlier. And we only have to beat up these enemies, so... Oh man, we missed him. Nice. We beat up the wrong enemy. Cool. Well, that was a huge waste of time. Alright, anyway. So, we're through that section there. Now we just need to get through this level here. And the way we get through this level is we clip through this elevator. And we go to the end of this level by teleporting to this chair here. And then just walking through to the end of the level. And now we're to the final level of the lab section, which is the lab boss level. So these guys are stealing a bunch of cash, and their mastermind boss that we have to beat is waiting for us. But we have to break all of these electric panels first, so she'll actually spawn into the level. Alright, so we're gonna start the level by teleporting over to here, and we just want to get to the electric panel as soon as we can. Each of the electric panels, they kind of pop up whenever you get near them. So this one here pops up when I get near it, and after you end up opening them, you can walk during those cutscenes, and it's kind of neat because you can teleport during them too. You can use that to get through this section a good bit quicker. Sadly, I didn't get over there because I was getting stunned by those guards. But anyway, so the reason we grabbed the grenades at the end of that Nepal section is for this specific boss fight here, because you're not supposed to be able to hit that last electric panel until you watch this cutscene. But the thing is, you can hit it with an explosion of a grenade. And believe it or not, that's like the only use for the grenade in the entire game. But anyway, so what that does is that, for some reason, just stun locks the boss every single time you do that. So if you hit that electric panel before you watch this cutscene, that boss will every single time be stun locked. So yeah, this boss goes from being one of the hardest bosses in the game, because she's really powerful and she has a ton of stun moves and everything. She goes from one of the hardest to one of the easiest, just as easy as the first boss. So it's pretty great. And this guy is always here, by the way. If we don't kill everyone in the room before we start this boss fight, then yeah, it's kind of funny. This guy just sits here beating up on us. Luckily, we don't take any damage during cutscenes, or else we would die. But it's kind of funny. He can be a little annoying because he can hit us with his electric baton and stun us, but it's not too big of a deal. Anyway, so we just beat up on her. Nothing too crazy. Anyway. Wow, we're still ahead. That's funny. Anyway. Well, if we don't take forever in Tokyo, we can PB. So, this section's kind of neat. This is the Tokyo section. This section starts with a clip, as a lot of sections do. And we try to get our camera to clip through that wall there, and then we want to... Nice, that was a really quick clip. Let's go. We want to clip into those boxes there so that we can just see through to the end of this level here. And then teleport to the end of it by walking to the end of the level there. And then this next level, we want to go out of our way to actually grab one of the best weapons in the game, which is the flamethrower. This is the earliest that you can get a flamethrower, so this is where we're getting it. And I think it's actually the only place you can get a flamethrower, if I'm not wrong. But anyway, so we go out of our way here, go through this door, teleport through it, and then grab the flamethrower, and then just get the camera to clip through the wall there so we can see out of bounds to get to the end of the level here. We just need to point at the end of the level there. Awesome. Alright, so yeah, as long as we don't choke these next few sections, I think we should PB.
It's a shame we didn't have time to catch up back in Nepal. I hadn't seen you since you
And
killed
sub
my
16,
parents.
which is really nice.
Will you flee as you did in Nepal? Like you did as a child? Victory has 100 memories, while defeat is forever an orphan.
So if you guys didn't know, if you didn't see me explain this earlier, basically this is the main guy that Griffin hates because he killed Griffin's parents, and Griffin is going to try and kill him now. And the one thing I didn't explain about the flamethrower, by the way, is basically what's intended with the flamethrower is you just are supposed to hold A or hold B, but when you mash A or mash B, essentially it'll kill the enemies really, really quickly because there is initial burn damage every single time you start the flamethrower. So basically, you're able to take out every single enemy in the entire game stupidly quickly because of how much damage you're doing. And even then, like, the flamethrower is still a really good weapon despite that. Like, it takes out enemies pretty quickly, but this just makes it stupidly broken. It's hilarious.
Are you jealous, Roland? Is that what this is all about? That you really just want to jump? Come on then. Ever been here before, Roland? People drive like maniacs.
Anywhere you have been, Griffin, I follow.
This is gonna hurt you way more than it does me. I think we're gonna need more space.
Alright, almost through here.
Like your parents.
Nice. Sub 16, boys. Let's go. Let's go. We did it. Honestly, this is, it's been way too long. As far as, when we should have gotten the sub 16, but we did, finally. Finally got that sub 16, boys. That's awesome. It's mostly because the Tokyo clip was decent. The Tokyo clip was really decent, so I'm glad that worked out how it did. It's a good record, man. It's a good record. Celebratory bowl. That's awesome. Well, next goal is, I mean, pretty obvious. It's gonna be sub 1550, so that won't be too hard, I think. What do we got? Yeah, I think there's a couple of sections that could be better for sure. Like the lab section, definitely we took a good little bit on like at least like 2 of the levels or so. Neat. That's awesome. Really glad we finally reached that, to be honest.